This is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
All right, this is the one I can feel it. Podcast. The first and the best Chiefs podcast. Real ones know the show is called Amateur Hour. The Amateur Hour podcast is now airing on KC Sports Network. Ryan Scott Hall and his Dirkness are back again. We've got football, friendship, and fun. All these shows, we're still number one, season 12. Oh, wow, here it comes. Welcome, my friends, to Amateur Hour podcast. Man, I can't hit that note right. Podcast! Is that right? Well.
Don't worry, nobody's listening anyway.
What is this, Amateur Hour?
Yeah, I ain't no Superman businessman like you. You know, I'm just a
amateur,
I suppose.
Amateur Hour
Is what's happening.
Amateur Hour
Is what's happening.
That's right, folks. The show is called Amateur Hour. I am Ryan Scott Hall, and joining me today, my friend, your friend, everybody's friend. It's your local neighborhood, his Dirkness.
70 sup?
Is that a Taylor Swift joke? I don't know. Oh, that was that a Dolphins joke?
No.
What's happening? I don't know. I don't know what I'm happening. What's happening?
You're flustered.
What do you mean?
You're flustered. What does 70 mean? What do you mean what does 70 mean? What happened this weekend that was 70 times?
Okay, there we go. All right. I got it. I got there eventually.
There you go.
I figured we wouldn't talk about the Dolphins until it was November. All right.
I thought we'd do a whole show on the Broncos today. I mean, there wasn't too much to learn from the Chiefs game, but I had a lot of fun watching that Broncos score.
Big takeaway: the Bears are bad. Dirk, how will you remember the Taylor Swift game?
Well, let me just say, I love how the top two stories from the game are the star player from little old quaint Kansas City very publicly announcing that he's dating arguably the most famous woman on the entire planet. And we have an offensive lineman who's standing incorrectly.
Yeah.
Those are the two stories. So, I mean, which one's a little more sexy there? We got a big guy who can't figure out how to stand right, or we got maybe the biggest, hottest relationship going on in the entire world. So which of those are we more into? It's tough to say, but I love how that's the dichotomy of what happened this week.
I believe that our now colleagues here at KC Sports Network, the incomparable trio behind the Only Weird Games podcast. I think it was Josh Briscoe, in fact, that called it A Tale of Two Taylors on Sunday. Well played, Josh. Well played. So, Dirk, you said there wasn't really like a whole lot to be able to take away from this game. It's 34-0 at halftime. The Chiefs put up 27 in the second quarter, really got rolling, looked fun on offense for the first time this year. Chiefs end up with 3 penalties for 15 yards in this game after that kind of opening night debacle where they had 12 for 94, I think. And it's really what a lot of people wanted to talk about coming out of the first week. And now they've kind of cleaned it up. But I tell you what, one of those 3 penalties really got Walter's attention over there on the sidelines, and ultimately in the press conference after the game, and again in the press conference on Monday. Andy Reid, did you see this story that's being passed around now that they essentially tried like an experiment in this game after Juwan Taylor got flagged for whatever it is, illegal procedure or, wearing 34, something like that. I don't know. They apparently decided, hey, we're going to sit Taylor for a minute and run a different right tackle out there and have him line up as far back as he can possibly imagine just to see what the refs do.
He could have gone further.
And they do nothing. As part of that report, I believe from Charles Goldman, he said that, the source told him as well. They also told Donovan Smith, just back it up, buddy. Just back that ass up. Back it up. Let's see what the refs do. And they don't do anything. Andy went really, really hard at the refs today, and I've seen a lot of people speculating that he and Mahomes are probably going to be due for a fine for criticizing the officiating the way they had.
I'll pay it.
Were you at all surprised to see Andy go as hard as he did against the refs? I mean, didn't he say it's getting ridiculous at this point? And we're only 3 games into the season, and Andy's speaking that sternly. I mean, that's surprising a little bit, right?
Yeah, I'm not used to hearing Andy speak out like that on officials. I think even if he was super pissed about something, he wouldn't necessarily say it that upfrontly. So obviously he's had enough, and he's obviously thinks that this is just a slam shut case or something like that. But
I was trying to think of that saying, and it open and shut.
Open and shut case. Thanks, Nick. Shout out. You want to do this pod? Should I hop off? But no, I think it's obvious. There's been 3 illegal formation penalties called on offensive linemen in the last 2 weeks. All 3 have been in Jawan Taylor. There's countless games across the league. Everybody's lining up the exact same way. I don't think there's much argument that something's going on here. And obviously this has caught the attention of the refs, and they're calling this weird. So I think this will probably be the last we see of it, I would guess. I think Andy has enough clout that if he's speaking like this, the front office is paying attention, like, okay, guys, are we sure that this guy is actually lined up illegally and nobody else is doing it? Because otherwise, like, we better tone it down here and listen up. So it's a bizarre story. I imagine that it'll go away after this. I don't know what else to say. It's glaringly obvious that he's being picked on for it. And it's glaringly obvious it's because Chris Collinsworth made it such a big deal in week 1. And now we're here. But the pulling him out was really weird. I didn't understand it. Against Jacksonville, at least he was racking up like other penalties. So it might have just been okay, just relax, just take a couple plays off, take a breather, get your mind right, and come back in. This one, he was playing fine. It was just those 2 calls, unless they were like pissed because they are telling him you need to line up further up, and he's just not doing it, which is kind of what I thought after the game, until I saw this report, which, man, is really quite the harebrained scheme, the half-baked idea from Andy Reid on the sideline, which I'm always in favor of. And he's like, I'm going to catch him in a lie. And apparently he did it. And I'm amazed that if that's what actually happened. That's truly amazing. And I don't even know how to reply to that other than awesome. Great job.
Yeah, good on you, Andy, for even just cooking that up. And I don't know if that's something that, was on a Town Topic napkin, like at one point during the week, or if it was just happening as soon as they saw the flag on Sunday. Andy's just like, you know what, we're going to wing some. Let's just see. Let's just see what happens here. I do agree that it's probably the end of the line for these penalties. No pun intended. But some of the screenshots, man, are hard to process. I've seen a couple from the Bengals game where none of the 4 offensive linemen are even close to wherever it is they're supposed to be. They all look like they're 2 yards back. And I'm just sitting here looking at it. It's I'm not sure. This is just another incident where I don't really understand NFL officiating. I don't fully get it.
And best I can tell, they're all lining up illegally. It's not just Jawan. Jawan is doing it illegally, but everybody across the entire league is doing it illegally, from what I understand, because you're supposed to be lined up with the center's belt, but almost no tackle in any game on any snap is lined up that far up, at least on a 3rd down passing play, at least.
It really seems like this was just kind of snitch Collinsworth, during that opening night game. huge viewership because it's the first game of the year, and Collinsworth won't drop it. And I mean, to the point now where Chiefs fans who maybe had one too many deep dives are thinking that Collinsworth, former Bengal, big Bengal supporter, trying to get the Chiefs, find an edge for his Bengals because Burrow's been so bad. And
I think the Bengals might have bigger issues than our right tackle lining up.
For sure. How about this? I mentioned the Chiefs only had 3 penalties for 15 yards, one of which really got Walter's attention. A different one caught my attention, Dirk. The Chiefs are staring at 1st and goal from the 1 in the first quarter, and Travis Kelce made the play of the day, a false start that backed them up to the 6-yard line so that they could actually feel comfortable in the red zone. And 2 plays later, Jerick McKinnon gets a really beautifully designed shovel pass as Sky Moore kind of runs by on the what do we call it? Jet sweep, jet motion, I suppose. But really opened up the middle of the field, and McKinnon caught first of 2 touchdowns on the day. So I started thinking about, the short yardage stuff based on Travis with his intentional false start here. And so I go and look at third downs. The Chiefs, this might be more of a Bears point than a Chiefs point, but the Chiefs ended up 10 of 14 on third down, 4 of 4 in short yardage situations, with Mahomes, at least. Well, Gabbert's another story. They had conversions on 3rd and 3 from both Sky and Travis Kelce for a touchdown. 3rd and 2, Travis Kelce. And 3rd and 1, nice run from Pacheco for 4 yards. Do you think that maybe, possibly, somehow, after all this time, all it took was one game against the Bears to solve these short yardage problems? Or maybe false starts are a thing of the future. I don't really know. But I'm trying to take some positives away, something that we can find from this Bears game that's worth putting in the bank to keep in mind for later. And I do think that they looked a little bit more confident on third downs, and especially 3rd and short. And it's probably more about Travis Kelce than it is about anything else.
Yeah, I mean, and it goes back to last week too, because they converted either 3rd or 4th and 1. They did the little fullback without a halfback, but they did a little fullback trap, kind of like their old play. So I think, I mean, the most promising sign is that they've picked up the last 2 third and 1s, just running it up the gut. That's the easiest way to do it. And if you can pull that off, then that's what you want to do. I mean, if you can do that, then do that. That's the easiest way. I think Andy was getting cute because he didn't trust this team to get 3rd and 1s because they got stopped doing that numerous times last year, just trying to run straight up the gut. And so then he's like, okay, well, now I got to try and get cute with it. So that was good to see, and that's promising to see. I mean, also just getting the running game going in general was good to see. They had more yards than I remembered against Jacksonville. I guess a 30-yard run from Pacheco kind of made that look better than it was. But this felt like the first week where the running game was truly clicking, in a way that we saw it click last year, especially down the stretch when it really diversified this offense. So yeah, I mean, a lot of people were probably waiting for this offense to break out, and they were very relieved to see it this week. And so they're probably looking at this oh man, yes, we're back. I just never feared that we were going away, and I expected them to be back like this. So it was kind of, I would have been disappointed if they didn't come out and put it all over the Bears. I was expecting it, and then they did it. So I personally didn't learn much from it because that was what I was expecting to see.
So on the running backs, and Nick, if you see this comment from Glenn about what the offense does when we run the ball, I mean, it's essentially where I'm going. I've been thinking about how, the Andy Reid detractors, it's always been Andy doesn't want to run the ball. He doesn't run the ball. He doesn't know how to control the clock. And then it turns into clock management, whatever. And I think that now that he has 2 Super Bowl rings, most of that conversation goes away until maybe one decision in a playoff game and national people start bringing it up again. But I do think that when the Chiefs, and I don't know if this is a chicken or the egg thing, but when the Chiefs offense looks at their best, usually it's because they have the balance between the run and the pass. I think that when the running game is going, the offense is truly cooking. And they don't have to have it to be good because that's the greatness of Patrick Mahomes. but I feel like I always feel the most confident watching this offense play when they are running the ball effectively because of what it does to open up the pass.
I mean, obviously you want to be running it effectively. But I really think that's more of like a last 2 years thing, like post Tyreek Hill kind of thing. Maybe into like the Tyreek Hill struggles in 2021 when everybody goes too deep crazy against us. And that's when you would have expected to see more of the running game, and we didn't quite have it at that point. And then they kind of made a point going into 2022, like we're going to have the running game available. So when teams do this, we have our counter to that. So, I mean, I really think early on in the Mahomes era, I was just happy to sling it around at all times with that many weapons and without that 2D defense really being that popularized yet, like just sling it all over the yard. Because, I mean, we got the best quarterback. We got the game's best tight end, the game's fastest wide receiver. We got Sammy Watkins. We got just weapons everywhere. So I was great doing that. But now they have a strategy of they're going cheap at receiver. They have Travis Kelce, obviously, but their game breakers aren't at the receiver position. And so they run more of a traditional offense, and it's worked out. I mean, obviously we saw them last year. It was the offense was, just as successful as it had been the last couple years, despite losing Tyreek Hill. And I think that was the impressive part. And I think a lot of that was due to the running game that they have now brought along since the start of 2022.
I've got some numbers on the running backs. I will save them until after this break.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network.
That's right. And here on KC Sports Network this season, Amateur Hour is partnered with the Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Kansas City. If you're looking for a way to make a big impact here in town, the Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Kansas City need sponsors for their sports teams and leagues. So help local kids while promoting your business throughout the metro. Just email giving@helpkckids.org for more information. That's giving@helpkckids.org.
Your company can hit it out of the park with a sports league sponsorship with Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Kansas City. Reach thousands of local families while giving kids the opportunity to get in the game. Contact giving@helpkckids.org for more information.
So, Dirk, the running backs on Sunday, 32 carries, 126 yards, and 2 touchdowns, as well as 6 receptions for 37 yards and 2 more touchdowns. First 4 scores of the day, all going to the running back room, who I've been pretty critical of so far this year. Was this the Bears or the backs?
Well, it was good to see, Jerk McChicken get involved a little bit because he's kind of the concern. He's the one that's getting up there. He's probably, I would guess, 29. Is he?
Ooh, I think he's 30. I think he's 30 or 31.
We'll get a fact check on that, but he's the one you kind of worry about, like, because he really gives you a weapon in that passing game, and he's the one kind of nearing that age where you see running backs really drop off. So maybe he's a young 31 because he hasn't quite 31 from Nick. Maybe he's a young 31 because he had a couple of years in there where he was just injured. So maybe there's not a lot of carries on his body. He's never been really a workhorse. But it was good to see him get involved. It was good to see the shovel pass come back. I feel like we haven't seen the shovel pass in the red zone for a long time. It was really dominant for a long time. And then for a while, it didn't quite. I mean, everybody was expecting it, and it kind of hit a little downspell there. And then we kind of saw it back this week. And you saw Miami really using it this week. They were using it in a cool way. But maybe the shovel pass on the goal line is back. But yeah, I mean, I've never really been down on Pacheco. I mean, his slow start might have just been because he was banged up throughout training camp. I don't think he didn't really play in the preseason, did he, at all? So one touch. So I think it's that first game, it's kind of just like a warm-up game, and he really didn't have it. Although, honestly, I was looking at some stats today with that running game going. Should have lost it. Here we go. Lions and Jags are 5th and 6th in the NFL in yards per carry allowed. We were talking about, I think it was the Lions that were like 31st in that last year. But I think they may have just greatly improved going into this year. And maybe the Chiefs just played 2 run defenses that were way better than we thought. So they're both 5th and 6th in the NFL in yards per carry. The Bears are actually 8th in yards per carry allowed. So the Chiefs have played 3 top 8 run defenses so far. And so that might be part of the issue that they were having. And it was good to see them bust out of that, because they do need the running game for this offense to be what it should be.
Did you say that Jerick McKinnon was a young 31? Like a spring jerk McChicken?
An undercooked, medium rare, medium jerk McChicken.
So what's Clyde's nickname? Is it Eclair? Is that what we went with?
Yeah.
The food nickname for Clyde?
Chex Mix.
There we go.
Clyde Edwards Eclair.
So I looked, and his snap to touch ratio this week was really in the rigatoni range. So I figured I'd just call him Clydarius. 15 carries on 23 snaps. Now some of that I think may have been like cleanup at the end. I mean, let's keep in mind that Blaine Gabbert played about 30% of the snaps. And so I thought the 15 carries for Clyde, like that's maybe second or third most carries in a game in his professional career. Managed about mid 50s yards. But the thing that I did notice, I guess, watching Clyde, and I mean, guys, this is just groundbreaking stuff. All right. New information on Clyde Blair. Yeah. If we want to go back to the amateur scouting service days, not tall, Clyde. Clyde is not tall. All right. But I think the thing that I noticed, and like maybe we've always known this, but it really felt kind of right, like all was right in the world on Sunday while the Chiefs were up 41-0. Clyde really seems like a guy that they can count on to do what's called. And I heard a really interesting point that I want to say was on the KCSN post game. And they were saying that like the Chiefs don't really put Clyde Edwards-Helaire in these winning situations. They ask him to do some of the hardest things in the offense, like some of the RPO runs to the edge. Clyde's not fast. We don't block them well, and he gets every one of those carries for some reason. And so they don't necessarily put him in these winning situations. And we always thought he was going to be a receiving back, and they still don't really throw him the ball. And yet, you know, I do think that even though I probably would have cut him, I mean, he's a valuable piece for them, particularly if somebody goes down. He's just not exciting.
Which, if you're taking a running back in the first round, that's what you want. And it's what we all thought we were going to get. I mean, I really only remember one game of his in college, but it was against Alabama, and he just completely dominated that game. It was just like anytime he got the ball, he was making the first 2 guys miss, and he was picking up a first down every single time he got the ball. Maybe that's the weapons around him, and that was helping him out. I don't understand what's happened since then. But yeah, I've throughout last year, I would always kind of defend him like, well, could we see Clyde get the same runs that Pacheco gets here? Like he gets these power runs, and we're putting tight ends in there, and it's like this different kind of power running game. And then we're running Clyde sideways, and those plays never work. I don't care who the running back is. I'll never understand it. I hear it's because that opens up the RPO game. Fine. I mean, I guess sure, fine, have it, whatever. But those runs, it's just a wasted play every single time. I hate those runs, and it always goes to Clyde.
To me, it seems like if you really want to like stress the edge, the best way to do it is on those little like push passes from Mahomes with a crossing guy that's like on a jet. Because if it drops to the ground, it is not a fumble, it's a forward pass. So it's basically a handoff for us. And even really better than a handoff, because if they fumble in exchange, then that's a live ball. And the guy is already moving full speed instead of Clyde, who is not fast and has very short strides, can't get to the edge. I don't understand that as like an element of this offense really at all. But I mean, you guys didn't come here to hear about Clyde Edwards-Helaire. You probably came to hear about how fun it is to beat Travis Kelce. This guy is apparently living his best life, renting out restaurants, shooting the ultimate shot on the biggest pop star on the planet. She was in Kansas City, Dirk. We said the Taylor Swift game, and then didn't really mention Taylor Swift for another 25 minutes. Or the king himself, Travis Kelce.
I was shocked.
Must be fun.
Should we get to this week's smut report from Backdoor Kiki, our sideline reporter? Should we get to the report?
It is getting racier by the week. And given how much it increased from week 1 to week 2, I'm terrified of what it's going to look like after this Jets game.
So there's an old interview that popped up. Did a little research. Did a little digging. It was an interview promoting Catching Kelce, actually. And they asked him about a deal breaker on if the lady needs to sleep with you by the third date, is that a deal breaker? And he said the third date is kind of the breaker. That's where he draws the line in the sand. So he says the first 2 dates he keeps it classy, and then the third date it's time to boogie. So the question is, she's already coming to the game. She's already meeting the parents. I've never met the parents before the third date. So are they already past a third date situation? Or is Kelce going to bend the rules for the most famous woman in the world? I mean, I will say Kelce is notorious for adjusting his routes on the fly, finding the open hole in the zone. Who's to say his dating life is any different? And that's the deep dive in this week's Smart Report. Thank you, Backdoor Kiki, for that.
I mean, I'm beside myself. The innuendo is a little bit out of control. Can I say this about Travis Kelce? He's obviously like a very handsome guy, and he's super funny and charming. He seems like he's just got kind of like this natural way about him that people like to be around him. I don't understand his clothes at all. I don't get it. I don't understand. It honestly, most of the time he doesn't look comfortable. I'm sure that the clothes, like one shirt is worth more than all of the clothes and my automobile are combined, probably. But I don't understand it. Did you see like the what do we call it? I just want to say an ensemble. I showed it to my fiance on Sunday. I was like, did you see what Travis is wearing? She is fully in on Taylor Swift, by the way. Like she's like wanting to sit down, and she's like, how many times have they showed Taylor already? Because in the first quarter, 10. Seen her a lot.
Did you see? I pulled up the ESPN, box score for the game, checking these stats. What we're going to talk about. The recap video is every Taylor Swift reaction to the game. Nothing to do with the game. Just 55 seconds of Taylor Swift reactions to the game. That was the only video that popped.
Dude, I'm telling you, I was so proud of myself for a tweet that got like 3 likes, and I thought I was the funniest guy on the planet. And it was just something to the effect of like, Taylor Swift is great at a lot of things, but clapping is not one of them. So, I mean, it's unfair to be on camera like for every possible reaction. We got one great gif out of it. The let's fucking go, like so clearly right in Donna's ear. Seems real comfortable in that crew. Donna had kind of a act like you've been here before vibe to her, even though Taylor
it's week 3. It's week 3, honey.
Yeah, exactly. Donna's just sitting there like casually, a little golf clap. I've seen this. How many times is it now? Mahomes to Kelce, 54 or 45 or something. Some franchise record, I'm sure. Number of connections between Mahomes and Kelce. And Donna's perfectly under control, and Taylor Swift is red-faced and losing her mind. Was that endearing to see her cheering that way?
I mean, it's pretty cool. I mean, I don't know. It's all a lot to wrap your mind around. The internet has taken it so many different directions. It's just like, what is going on here? Like the videos of like them introducing themselves to football or like teaching themselves like basic football. Those are all hysterical. I just want to talk
about blocking when he was like, go over there and stay away.
I just want to say, Can you imagine if Mahomes had gotten seriously hurt in the game that she attended? Could you imagine the all-out war that would be going on Twitter right now if she attends that game and Patrick Mahomes get hurt? Because Chiefs fans would absolutely take it out on her. And the Swifties over here, they're a powerful army from what I hear. And it would just be like, boom, it would be World War fucking III right now. That would be, and I'd be right there with him. Like, get her the fuck away. I don't want her at another fucking game again. If Mahomes got seriously hurt and she's there, she's the problem and she's got to go.
That would, oh man, I didn't even consider that. I mean, he did get kind of rolled up on. Dude, Yannick Ngakoue, what are you thinking, pal? That was actually, you know what? Let's continue this after a little break here. We got one more break we need to take.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network.
Well, folks, we're back with another week of football, and DraftKings Sportsbook is keeping us in on the NFL action with great offers every single game day. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Throw $5 down on any of this week's epic matchups to walk away an instant winner. DraftKings isn't stopping there. All customers can take advantage of 2 new offers every game day in September. Football's more fun when you're in on the action, so download the app now and sign up with code KCSN. New customers can bet just $5 to get $200 instantly in bonus bets only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, with code KCSN. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, licensee partner, Golden Nugget Lake Charles, Louisiana. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/football terms for eligibility, terms, and responsible gaming resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. Whew. I think that was my best one yet.
Wow.
So Dirk, we're thinking about this kind of situation that's brewing here with Travis Kelce, with Taylor Swift attending Chiefs games. At one point, you asked if Chris Jones was even like waving to Taylor after a play. I went and looked, and this is a little bizarre and has really nothing to do with anything, but did you notice that even in this kind of shortened game, because the Chiefs offense was so good, I think it was 15 total snaps for Chris Jones in this absolute ass whooping that the defense continued to put on the Bears? I look at all this and I think about what this might lead to for Travis Kelce. I don't want to sit here and have some big breakdown on his relationship and prospects after football, but I just want to return to the point that it really seems like a lot of fun to be Travis Kelce. He's at the top of his game, man, literally and figuratively, as are the other two kind of cornerstones of this offense. Andy Reid, now 4th in NFL history, standalone, passing Tom Landry for 4th all-time in wins. And then there's Patrick Mahomes, who not only leads all quarterbacks in rushing through 3 games, he's got over 100 yards, but he crossed the 25,000-yard mark for his career nearly a full season faster than Peyton Manning. Thanks for that nugget, BJ. Dirk, is there like an equivalent civilian accomplishment for throwing for 25,000 yards? I was wondering, like, what have you done 25,000 times?
I probably shouldn't answer that.
Of course.
What have I done 25,000 sleeps? No, probably haven't got there yet. No, I don't know what I've done 25,000 times. And no, I have no equivalent to that. So I cannot compete with Patrick Mahomes. On Andy Reid, real quick, you kind of glossed over it. 4th most wins ever. He is 59 behind Bill Belichick and gaining on him most every week. Only 9 behind Belichick in playoff wins. That was kind of surprising to me. I mean, Belichick just has so much playoff success. And then the all-time leader, Don Shula, he is 76 wins behind Don Shula. And so if you're looking for if that's possible, that would be 13 wins over the next 6 years. And this includes playoff games. So, I mean, 13 wins. Keep in mind there's 17 games in a season, playoff win or 2 or 3 or 4. That's doable. Andy Reid, 6 more years. Could he finish on the mountaintop of these career wins? I think that's on the table. I mean, if he sticks around like 2 or 3 more years, why not stick around 2 or 3 more years and get the record? It's just been enough in the distance that's just like, okay, I see it. It's possible, I guess. But man, only 6 more years. I feel like with Mahomes, you're looking at about 13 wins a year. Like, this is very, very possible for him to finish as the winningest NFL head coach of all time.
Well, if you look at the next 6 years, I mean, I think generally speaking, you're talking about Patrick Mahomes' prime. It's like age 28 to age 34. He'll be in his mid-30s at that point. And depending on what they've accomplished together, provided those two are still together at that time, we could be having the same conversation that a lot of people were having about Belichick and Brady. Like, do they just retire together? Should
have.
Yeah, I mean, Brady got an extra ring, in Tampa, so it is what it is, I suppose. But
I was mostly talking about Belichick. It's just Belichick is so weird right now because it's just they're kind of just stuck. I mean, they're well coached, but they just don't have a good amount of talent, so they're just looking at 8 and 9 every single season. Like, how long is he going to stay around for that?
I probably would have hung him up after whatever it was, my 7th Super Bowl or something, and knowing that the impending divorce with Tom Brady, I probably would have stopped there. But when you think about Andy, there have been questions about his health at different times, about work-life balance at different times, but generally, apart from like the in season and specifically like the late season cough that he always seems to develop because it's cold and they're outside all the time and he's fucking wearing shorts. Andy,
what a boss.
He just seems like one of the most happy-go-lucky people most of the time. And so to be that well prepared and yet like that lighthearted and lovable, he's a serious person that I think still figures out how to be as unserious as possible. And that may give him the ability to stick around longer than anyone thought. And honestly, like Don Shula, dude, if you look at how many years that guy coached and like some of the teams that he coached, I believe that Don Shula was the head coach of the undefeated Dolphins season and coached like all of Dan Marino's career through the 90s too. He was around forever, it seems like, looking back on the history books. But I mean, how many years has Andy already been coaching? Didn't he? He's in the 20s now, right?
Yeah, I would say between 20 and 25 would be my guess.
Head coach
like
is what I'm thinking.
25. Yes, this would be year 10. This would be year 11 with the Chiefs, and I know he was there over 10 years with the Eagles. The shocking thing is that Andy Reid is 6 years younger than Bill Belichick. It doesn't seem like that, but he's 6 years younger, and I just said 6 more years. So, I mean, it might be Belichick's that's kind of in the way of him becoming the all-time wins leader. Maybe that's what Belichick's kind of chasing in his own mind.
Yeah.
It's just wild. And it's wild that, like, I mean, Belichick is kind of always foreseen as the GOAT. And I get it. He seems like a better, like, in-game coach, and he does a lot of things better than Andy. But after the fact, it's going to be a very easy argument to make for Andy over Belichick in that he did it in more than one stop. Belichick wasn't successful with the Browns. Belichick wasn't successful after Tom Brady with the Patriots. He was only successful in this extremely long window with Tom Brady. And Andy Reid has all this accomplishments with the Eagles. He has all these accomplishments with the Chiefs before Mahomes gets here. And now he's going to, put the cherry on top of everything with Mahomes. But that's going to be a very easy argument to make after the fact that, like, hey, Andy's done this in more stops than one and in more ways than one. So that's why he's a better head coach than Bill Belichick. And so I think I don't think people really have that argument now, but I do think, as he gets closer to that record or something, or after they retire and people are kind of looking at the facts after the fact, it might get there. I mean, he has to win more Super Bowls and get close to, the overall Super Bowl number of Belichick, obviously. But I think he will get there with Mahomes here coming into his prime, like we talked about.
I don't want to rain on your parade, but I think it's important to remember that I want to say 2 of the Super Bowls that Brady and Belichick won together, the Patriots only allowed like 13, or only scored like 13 points. I mean, look, like that defense carried them a lot, and that's all Belichick, right? And don't get me wrong, like, I mean, obviously it's a symbiotic relationship between the two of them. You can't really have one without the other unless, I mean, you count the year in Tampa, which I'm sure that Tom does. I almost wonder if that's like what he considers truly his crowning achievement, not just because it was at the end of the year, but because he was able to do it apart from Belichick. But even, I mean, that team in Tampa was probably more talented than any Patriots team he played on. So, I mean, I don't know. In any case, Dirk, let's think for just a second about maybe what was different for the offense this week. And I don't.
You're not going to give this defense time to shine, are you?
Yeah, we've been waiting. All right, been waiting a long 2 games for the Chiefs to snap out of it.
I've been waiting 6 years for the defense.
No, I'll end it with this. Rashee Rice leads the team in targets through 3 games. That I think is pretty interesting and certainly something to earmark for down the road. And
a lot of momentum that he's going to be the most productive receiver this year, or at least maybe the best receiver by season's end. Yeah. Are you on that bandwagon? I've seen a lot of that, a lot of those takes.
I would like it. I would be excited about it. A first-year receiver breakout in an Andy Reid system is almost unheard of. And I feel like there were conversations that I've listened to, whether it's Nick Wright or Danny Parkins or Carrington Harrison, like the guys that we were kind of cutting our teeth on radio-wise. I remember hearing them talk a lot about how when it comes to receivers, you usually don't see a receiver suddenly in like year 3 or year 4 balloon up and have 1,000 yards and then have a great career. Most of the time, they are good right away. Instantly. And so anytime that the Chiefs have drafted somebody and they don't come out and have a great first season, those conversations have kind of colored the way that I perceive that player. And I've tried to sell myself on Sky Moore. I still think that Sky is getting open early in routes, and he's just not getting that quick timing throw from Mahomes.
He always seems open. Even like when he catches passes, he's always wide open, it seems like. He always seems like he wins off the line. I just don't – I feel like the breakout game has to be coming soon for Sky.
I think if they are going against a team that they fear in terms of their ability to get after the quarterback. I mean, Mahomes, the offensive line has not yet been credited with a sack this year through 3 games. And so, Mahomes is not really getting touched very much. And he's so good at escaping the pocket and extending plays that like he helps his offensive line quite a bit, because somehow I think Donovan Smith is like near the top of the league in pressures allowed, but still the offensive line is one of 2 in the league that hasn't allowed a sack yet. So there's a situation there where Mahomes helps the offensive line so much, but I don't know, man. I think that if they are facing a team, and I don't know exactly who it would be, but if there's a defense on this schedule where they're like, we have to get the ball out quick or it's going to be a very difficult day, that's the kind of game where I see Sky Moore being like the first target, the first read, because those releases, just like they were in college, have been so clean. And so I've just thought, like, why isn't Sky Moore getting like 10 targets a game And he didn't even have 10 through the first 2 weeks. And so maybe it's a slow start. I think he looks okay. I still think that he's got a chance to be the leading receiver at the end of the season. But honestly, man, Justin Watson, Justin Watson,
White son.
He is officially important.
He's our deep threat.
I mean, I guess
a real Bowinger type.
If nothing else, and this was like when we were entering the season and people were thinking like Justin Watson shouldn't be on this team, and I can't believe they kept him on the roster. He sucks. He is well liked by Patrick Mahomes. He is well liked. It's a guy that Patrick trusts, and almost every ball that he throws to him is a trust ball. You mentioned being a deep threat. Justin Watson matters. It's a guy that I believe is officially important to this offense. 3 games into the season.
I'm with you.
Should we talk about the defense?
Yeah, let's switch to the defense. Well, first, I just wanted to speak that the Chiefs winning a blowout like that. It's kind of rare these days. I did a little research here. Last year was kind of the year of like the never easy Chiefs. That was kind of the going saying, I guess. They beat Arizona by 23, San Francisco by 21. 2021 had the struggles throughout the season, but they actually had 4 20-point wins in that season. 2 of them over the Steelers and 2 of them over the Raiders. 2020 was more one-score wins than anything else. Beat the Jets by 26 and Denver by 27. So really don't see the Chiefs just like lay it on that much. Like usually when they play like a lot of these weaker teams, it's closer than people think. So it was kind of cool to see them just like pour it on a team. And it was their biggest win since they beat the Raiders by 39 in 2021. So it was cool to see them just totally lay it on. The defense, I got some stats here on the defense. I don't know where the holes are on this defense. Because right now, 4th in points per game allowed, 6th in yards per allowed, 5th in yards per play, 4th in total first downs allowed, 5th in third down percentage, 11th in run defense, 8th in passing yards per attempt. They're only 15th in sacks, even though I feel like the pass rush is just like ferocious and going to start causing problems. Like I think that number will go up. It's just from top to bottom, the talent and depth on this defense is just, it's incredible. And you see it firsthand with a guy like Nick Bolton not playing in this game. And I didn't lose 1 ounce of sleep over it because I'm like, oh man, that's awesome. Because now we get to see Drew Tranquill play a full game. And he looks fantastic out there. And he's a different style player than Nick Bolton. I really think those are the 2 best linebackers on the team. I would love to see, more of those 2 playing together out there. But just from defensive line, they got talent and depth. Linebacker, they got talent and depth. Secondary, they got talent and depth. It's just a loaded fucking defense. And it's incredible that this has just been put together seemingly out of nowhere, mostly with the draft from 2022 and just thrown together from that season, and for it to already be what it is right now, and that they're the youngest defense in the NFL. Like, it's insane what they're doing right now.
I believe amid all of those stats that you mentioned, I think they're also 5th or 6th in DVOA too. I mean, like it's the counting stats and it's the advanced stats. Like everything is really showing you that this defense is truly one of the best in the league. And not to mention, you said obviously they're young, right? And they're young pretty much all over defensively. I tell you what, man, a guy like Charles Omenihu being inserted into this lineup around whatever it is, week 6, week 7, they're only going to get better barring injury. They're only going to get more dangerous, certainly as a pass rush, adding that guy. Ultimately, I think that he is in a lot of ways like cushion for the eventual departure of Chris Jones. I think that Omenihu is one of the closest like-for-like replacements potentially in all of the NFL for a player like Chris Jones because of the build and the length and being able to dominate people on the interior. Let me see it first.
Sure.
They're dangerous, man. I am starting to see some of the things that Spags can develop over the season. How about new defensive weapon, literally like listed like an athlete almost, Leo Chenal. This guy, it seems like they can use him in all these different creative ways because of all of that talent. We talked about this on the program a few weeks ago, where Spags has all these different guys that can either play outside or play in the slot or play at safety or play in linebacker, and he can just crowd the line of scrimmage in and around where the actual trenches are happening. And offenses are going to have no idea where the pressure is coming from. And so many of those exterior players that aren't defensive linemen are so adept at getting into the backfield and creating pressure. And when you look at, dude, like, how confident are you in the depth and the talent in that defensive backfield behind all of those players that can create all of that turmoil, that havoc in the pass rush game and speed quarterbacks up? And I tell you what, man, here's the deal, Dirk. Like, we gave him shit for a long time, and Veach assembled this defense, and maybe even more importantly, that defensive backfield in his way. I will admit that obviously that round one trade up for Trent McDuffie was a big investment, but he nickel and dimed at corner for years and still was able to put this defense together. And there's a fourth rounder out there, another fourth rounder out there, a sixth rounder out there, like league minimum third safety that just got an interception for us. He has put together a sensational collection of depth and talent in a way that I don't think most of us thought was possible. We were pissed at him for not signing big money deals, for not drafting players, first round until Trent McDuffie. And suddenly they have so many guys that we're like, how do you put them on the field all at the same time?
Yeah, we get on here and I think we champion Jalen Watson. We try to get him on the field. Like, why is Joshua Williams playing over here? And now you're seeing stats this week that Joshua Williams has this super, super good success rate as a corner this year. And so he's playing great. Like, it's a corner that I wouldn't even play. And yet he's playing at a very high level in the NFL. Like the position that's like hardest to find in the NFL. You got, L'Jarius Sneed, who's been a slot corner for most of his career. He's been bumped outside for Trent McDuffie now because Trent McDuffie is doing some of the things that Sneed does. He's great in the run game. He's punching balls. He's forced another fumble this year. And he's just so good at covering that they're throwing him in the slot and trusting him one-on-one. Trent McDuffie is an absolute stud. And the crazy part is he's actually the number one corner on PFF right now, the number one graded corner. 3 of the top other 15 corners on that list are former Chiefs that are still thriving around the NFL. Like, this probably predates Veach a little bit, but like Kendall Fuller, Steve Nelson, Charvarius Ward, they're all playing great ball around the NFL, and they were all here, and we just got rid of them for this more cheap talent, late round picks that are all thriving. I guess Trent's a first round pick, but everybody else is just like these mid round picks, and they're thrown together, and they're rookies, and it's unbelievable how good they look right now. It blows my mind how good everyone is, and it's gonna make for some tough decisions because it's just like, do you need to pay Sneed? Do you need to pay Bolton? Bolton's probably a little further down the road. It's probably 2 years from now. But just, what do you do here? Because you got so much young talent behind them. Like, we could lose Sneed and be totally fine with McDuffie, Williams, and Watson at corner. We'd be totally fine. So it's just a bevy of talent right there, right now. And it's great that, right now they're all here and playing here on the same defense because it's loaded on that side of the ball.
Well, and especially if you believe any of the, preseason hype around guys like Nazeeh Johnson, who was a 7th rounder that ended up, I think it was ACL or whatever. He's missing the season. And Nick Jones, who was a 6th rounder from this last draft that, made the team. I don't know if he's seen the field quite yet in the regular season. I don't even know if he's been active on game day, but like, they even have other guys on the roster that they like to help cushion the blow of losing Sneed that aren't going to be thrust into these starting roles suddenly because of that trio that you have at corner. And when you look at the fact that George Karlaftis and we don't know much about Felix, but like George is, look at all the PFF stuff that's being passed around. Not perfect, but some good stats coming out about Karlaftis. I believe that the ESPN one was that I think he's like 5th in the league in pressures right now.
He's up there with like Parsons and Watt in terms of pressure percentage.
Exactly.
The sacks, or he does have some sacks, I guess. But the sacks have been more like, longer plays, like hustle kind of sacks. But he's just been disruptive overall. And he's been more so than I maybe even thought possible. Because I was just like, I kind of just booked this guy in. We're going to have 5 years of control for him. He's going to be a solid starter the entire time. Put him down for 8 sacks a year and just don't worry about the position. He'll be fine. But you need somebody else to, be the number one guy, which you have right now with Chris Jones. I could see George becoming that number one guy now. Like, he looks so good. I keep thinking back to him working with Tom Bahali in the offseason and doing this jiu-jitsu stuff. And I'm wondering how much that helped his game, but I just thought for whatever reason, he was just going to be a great hustle guy and a solid starter. And I never saw him truly evolving into a game breaker. And he might already kind of be getting there by early year 2. So that's insane to see. Dana's taken a big step as well. Felix hasn't played much, but his pressure percentage when he has played has been good. It's top to bottom. Everyone's getting better too. Everybody's getting better. We had all this young talent playing last year, all these rookies thrown out there. Okay, they looked fine. They got the job done. Will they get better? They all got better.
Well, and I think, Dirk, just for the record, I think it's Dana, not Dana. I could be wrong, but I've just been calling him Mike Badana.
Bandana?
Mike Badana.
Not bandana?
No, Badana. Like a banana. Badana. Mike Badana. Go wear my shirt.
Like banana. I was gonna say your banana t-shirt.
Yeah.
Is that a Mike Dana banana shirt?
No, it's a best friend shirt. Roy Choi.
Ah.
Got it in Vegas.
Oh yeah.
One of the best meals I've had in a long time.
That was good.
The thing about Dana, I mean, that's a guy that was a 5th round pick too, like 180th overall or something. We're at that point. And this is a guy that, to me, needs to be a priority for getting another contract with this team. I feel like he has worked his way into being a starting player. And when you see what he can do, when he moves inside on these sub-down rushes, he dominates guards. And I mean, sometimes it's a bull rush. And he's like 6'2", 250, 260. I mean, it's not like Mike Dana is this big hulking, 6'5" guy moving down inside, so it makes sense. He's built like a D tackle. No, he's almost an undersized defensive end. And he's so disruptive. He's good against the run. He's worked his tail off. That's a guy that I really wouldn't be surprised that would like get a contract from the Chiefs where it's like suddenly a person that most fans across the league have never heard his name before. When a guy like gets 30 million guaranteed and you're like, who is that? Who? That's what will happen with Mike Dana. And Chiefs fans will be like, yes, got to keep him.
It's actually, there's a guy, Granderson, I think is his name, from the Saints, I want to say, was that guy like 2 days ago.
Yeah.
So I did 21 questions or whatever with Craig Stout last night, and we were discussing like the Stout, the pass rush package, because Omenahu is going to come back, and he's probably going to be a part of that package. So you're either kicking, Dana off the field, or you're kicking Felix off the field. You're probably leaving George and Chris Jones out there. But it's really crazy what they do, because they're usually sliding out Chris Jones to defensive end. They're sliding Dana inside. They're probably sliding who else inside? George maybe inside. I don't know what the alignment. It's probably different every time. But they're going to have to kick one of those guys off for Omenahu, who they gave big money, and he's almost specifically designed for that package. So you think he'll be in there. It's just a bevy of options. And the Dana contract, I think it's going to be directly tied to what you want to do with Chris Jones. Because if you're getting rid of Chris Jones next year, you're going to want to keep guys like Mike Dana around so you have a really good rotation. But if you're going to pony up and give Chris Jones $35 million, it might squeeze a guy like Mike Dana out of here. So I almost feel like that's like directly tied to Chris Jones.
I threw a poll out there on Sunday because I think it may actually, you talk about Chris Jones. He's going to determine a lot of what they're capable of doing over the next 2 to 3 seasons with their finances. But I think that the Mike Dana conversation, it may actually come down to him or Snead, because I think that Snead, although is probably potentially more valuable, he's older than Mike Dana. He will also command more money, I would think, than Mike Dana. And so if you're only able to keep one of those two, I think the answer is which one is cheaper, because they're both such good players. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't think that people want to put Mike Dana in the same stratosphere as L'Jarius Snead, who is now just shadowing number 1 receivers every game, seemingly. Also, obviously, great tackler, great blitzer, really versatile player. I mean, if they can keep these guys together, I know that we all enjoyed it until we didn't, and now look back on it with a little bit of disgust. But I tell you what, the run it back tour on this defense could last for the next 10 years. All right, just keep them all, please. I beg you. If you can keep that group together, whoo, son.
So much of the talent is from, last year's draft. It's just we have all these years of control of young talent. I mean, this is what spawned the entire 2019 Chiefs movement, was that they have this, Travis Kelce, they had Chris Jones, they had Marcus Peters, they had Tyreek Hill, all on rookie deals. So they're all going to be really good players on rookie deals. So now you can go out and sign guys like Sammy Watkins to just come over the top and put you over the top. That was the whole point, is that you could kind of see it coming from years away. The crazy thing is that we won the Super Bowl in the first year of that, and the peak of what they're doing should be like, next year or the year after that. That would be when this talent is really hitting their peak, and they're still cost controlled at a low cost. So it's wild to see. The future is bright. The present is bright. One stat here I didn't get to: 11 first downs allowed against the Bears. That is the second fewest of the Andy Reid era. Only to last year against the Titans, and they were playing Malik Willis, who may or may not be Justin Fields. So take that for what it's worth. That was only 9 first downs last year against the Titans.
It's a real twist of the knife if the Bears.
It's to get back to you for the Justin Herbert, Phillip Rivers takes. I got my own.
That's fair. All right. So before we get out of here, I just want to plant the seed in everyone's mind. The next 5 games for the Chiefs prior to the face-off with the Dolphins in Germany. It is Jets.
That's a real bratwurst there.
Right? It's Jets, Vikings, Broncos, Chargers, Broncos. And they're all record-wise through 3 weeks, bad. Performance-wise through 3 weeks, bad. Jets, bona fide bad. Like nothing.
They're ready to give in. They're ready to give up. They're on the towel.
I want to say that the Jets game is not in the same category, but I think that Vikings, Broncos, Chargers, Broncos, we're going to walk into each of those games probably feeling really confident, and I think they're all traps. I hope that the Chiefs don't lose again until they play Miami. I hope that Tua and the Dolphins are completely healthy. I want like a clash of the Titans. I want one of the best games of the NFL season to happen in Germany. I think all of it is awesome. It sounds great to me.
At like 6 a.m. The game will be like 6 a.m. my time, won't it?
I'll
probably just stay up the night before and
right.
tailgating,
right? But I do think that some of these games might end up being boring. They might end up being stressful. I'm really hoping for just cruise control through the month of October. But people are going to look at those opponents and think the Chiefs are got a really nice stretch. Like their commute to work is going to be downhill both ways for the next month. But especially those 3 straight AFC West games, going Broncos, Chargers, Broncos over the course of 3 weeks, I'm a little nervy about what we've got coming up on the schedule, even though it's probably an easier stretch than what we have after the bye week.
I mean, even if we drop one, I mean, what are we really concerned about? What are we?
We're all yeah. You know what? Actually, losing that game to the Lions, now the talk of perfection is off the table, so it's fine. Lose one, might as well lose 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. Who cares?
We're kind of eyeing this Chiefs-Dolphins game. It's kind of reminiscent of Chiefs and Rams in 2018, which we started eyeing 5 or 6 weeks out. And it's like, holy shit, we might have the 2 best teams in the league here. And they're playing in this weird game. That game was supposed to be in Mexico City, obviously, as some of us know. And this game's going to be in Germany, but it's kind of weird. It's like a similar week in the season. And it's just like both teams on this collision course right now. And you got this storyline with Tyreek on the Dolphins, who's fucking tearing it up. You got the Chiefs, his former team, 2 most explosive teams, them breaking offensive records now. Like they're the Chiefs, and like all these statistical things you see now, where it's like the very top right dot. It's always the Dolphins, or it's always Tua right now. That's where the Chiefs have lived for the last 5 years. So yeah, you're right. That's start the pregame for it now. Let's start the breakdowns. We'll start talk Chiefs Dolphins every week.
I'm looking at this is what happens, when you're a part of the original Kansas City Chiefs podcast here on Amateur Hour. I'm doing a deep dive right in the middle of the show, an unplanned deep dive, trying to figure out if Frankfurt Stadium has any concerts that they might have to change venues, much like Shakira had ruined the turf in Mexico City. Can you imagine? Like, what if they just move the game to England and suddenly all the fans are stranded in Germany?
Germans don't fuck around, man. Germans got it together. And they care about football a lot. You see like the 3 million ticket requests for these games. They got fucking 80,000 people just standing outside the stadium watching on a TV screen. Germany is NFL obsessed. And I think they like the Chiefs.
Yeah. Well, we like the Chiefs. That's really what the show's about, folks. Football, friendship, and fun here on Amateur Hour. The Chiefs are 2-1. Next week, they are playing the lowly New York Jets. Maybe we'll see a second Taylor Swift game there in
New York,
hometown of New York. I'm Ryan Scott Hall. He's his Dirkness. And Justin Herbert is Phillip Rivers.